I'm your host, Scott Layton, and welcome to Episode 7 of the Infinite Loop of Existence. How do we engage with the world without being consumed by it? We stand upon the threshold of a great and terrible question, one that pierces through mere contemplation and demands something more. To know the truth is one thing, to live it is another. Here, at this intersection of philosophy and action, of transcendence and engagement, of contemplation and transformation, we are called to something beyond intellectual assent. We are called to become. To seek God is not merely to seek answers, but to be swept into an experience of awe, splendor, and the ineffable weight of the divine. Transcendence is often misunderstood as a retreat, a quiet slipping away from the world, but true transcendence is an arrival. It is an expansion of sight, a deepening of presence, a call to step forward rather than withdraw. We have seen that God is, that Christ reveals, that the church endures, but what now? What does this demand of us? Not in theory, but in the rhythm of our lives, in the sweat of our labor, in the choices that shape us when no one is watching. This is not an idle curiosity. It is the question, the one that will define whether we merely consume knowledge, or whether it consumes us, transforms us, and drives us to action. To ascend is not to flee. To transcend is not to escape. It is to become more, to see more, to love more, to live with greater fullness, not only in the depths of our souls, but in the world in which we are placed. To seek God is to seek truth, beauty, and justice. To seek God is to act. And so we ask, what comes next? Transcendence is not a departure, but an unveiling. It is not the rejection of the world, but the piercing of its veil. We often imagine the transcendent as something distant, something detached from the ordinary. Yet every great tradition, be it the Greek pursuit of arete, the Eastern longing for enlightenment, or the Christian path of theosis, points not to escape, but to a greater engagement with the real. The mystic does not abandon the world, he awakens to it. The philosopher does not deny reality, he strives to understand it. The saint does not flee suffering, he transforms it into love. To transcend is not to become less human, but more. Christianity speaks of ascent, but never abandonment. Moses ascended Sinai not to remain in the clouds, but to bring the law down to the people. Christ ascended into heaven not to leave us orphaned, but to send his Spirit. The saints did not retreat into isolation for its own sake. They entered the wilderness to return with fire. Transcendence is not about escaping the world. It is about seeing it rightly. It is the lifting of the veil, the widening of vision, the awakening of the soul to both the eternal and the immediate. The danger of transcendence lies in misunderstanding it. Some believe that to seek God is to reject the world, to see beauty as a distraction, politics as corruption, suffering as something to be ignored in favor of private contemplation. Others take the opposite path, drowning in the world, embracing material progress, activism, and success while neglecting the eternal. Both are errors. God calls us neither to flee the world nor to be devoured by it, but to sanctify it. Faith cannot be reduced to sterile belief. It is not mere assent to doctrine. It is virtue, action, and engagement. Faith without awe becomes legalism. Awe without action is useless. Action without truth leads to chaos. We must hold all three in harmony. The splendor of God, transcendence, wonder, the pursuit of beauty and truth. The virtues of faith, wisdom, discipline, moral courage. The works of justice, the transformation of society, the defense of dignity, the pursuit of peace. To live in only one dimension is to live incompletely. Faith is not a thought process, it is a life process. Too many believe that to have faith is simply to hold the right ideas, to recognize beauty, to believe in justice. But belief is only the beginning. We become what we do. We do not merely admire mercy, we practice it. We do not merely praise justice, we defend it. We do not merely contemplate virtue, we embody it. This is why Catholicism is not just a system of doctrines, it is a way of life. Faith is lived through. The sacraments, grace made tangible, the divine entering the mundane. Virtue, the habits of the soul, shaping who we become. Service, love made visible in the world. Truth, the unwavering pursuit of what is real, no matter the cost. Faith moves, faith acts, faith transforms. To seek God is to seek truth in all its forms. In theology, we seek to know Him. In science, we seek to uncover His design. In art, we seek to reflect His beauty. In justice, we seek to embody His love. We transcend not only in sacred spaces, but in the marketplace, in the courtroom, in the laboratory, in the streets where the hungry cry for bread. Transcendence is not an escape from the world, it is a deeper engagement with it. A mind that seeks knowledge, a soul that seeks wonder, a heart that seeks compassion, a will that seeks justice. We do not seek transcendence for ourselves alone, we seek it for all. The world is not our enemy, it is our battleground. We are not called to retreat, we are called to sanctify. The pursuit of truth is not a private luxury, it is a public duty. Transcendence leads to action. Faith is not only about personal holiness, it is about social transformation. To seek God is to seek the good, not only for ourselves but for others. And that means stepping into history, into the struggle for truth, for dignity, for justice. The next episode will take this further. What does it mean to fight for truth, justice, and human dignity in our time? How do we take the great moral struggles of history, the abolitionists, the civil rights movement, the saints of reform, and apply them to today's world? How do we resist injustice, deception, and oppression without losing our souls to rage or despair? If transcendence is seeing more, then justice is acting upon what we see. If faith is knowing, then virtue is being and action is doing. And so we ask, will we step forward? Will we live what we know? We were not made for small lives. We were not made to shrink, to submit, to be consumed by distraction. We were made to see, to rise, to act. The Renaissance was not merely a historical period, it was a reawakening, a call to think, to build, to discover, to create, to challenge. That same call is alive today. It is waiting for those who will answer. Will you?